Was religion ever truly free? Did kings ever genuinely believe in their people? Could science and faith ever actually coexist? Let's dive into a whirlwind tour of the 20th and 21st centuries, a century obsessed with myths, and a century where the truth got buried under layers of speculation and, frankly, a whole lot of misunderstandings. It began, predictably, with a shadow. The Reformation, that seismic shift of the 16th century, wasn't just about nailing theses to church doors. It was a messy, brutal, and utterly fascinating period of questioning, fracturing, and outright warfare. Martin Luther, the man who kicked it all off, wasn't exactly a saint. He was a theologian with a serious beef with the Catholic Church and a penchant for stirring up trouble. And let's be clear, his anti-Semitism wasn't a charming quirk. It was a deeply ingrained prejudice that would haunt Europe for centuries. Fast forward to the 19th century and things got complicated. Max Weber, a German sociologist, had a rather provocative idea that the Protestant work ethic, a relentless drive for wealth and success, had actually fueled the rise of capitalism. Now, this wasn't a simple cause and effect relationship. Weber argued that certain Protestant beliefs, particularly Calvinism, emphasized hard work, frugality, and a rejection of worldly pleasures as signs of God's favor. This, he suggested, created a culture that was incredibly conducive to entrepreneurialism. But here's the kicker: many historians now argue that Weber's thesis is largely a myth, a convenient narrative that ignores the complex economic forces at play. It's like saying a single drop of rain caused a flood, a massive oversimplification. The 20th century exploded with conflict. The rise of nationalism, the belief that a nation is a unique and superior entity, was a major driver. Think about it: empires crumbled, new states were born, and entire populations were swept up in a frenzy of patriotic fervor. World War I, a catastrophe of unprecedented scale, was in part fueled by this nationalist sentiment. And then came World War II, even more devastating, with a particularly sinister twist: the rise of Nazism in Germany. Hitler, a charismatic but utterly ruthless dictator, exploited existing prejudices, particularly anti-Semitism, to consolidate his power. He used Luther's writings, twisted and distorted, to justify his horrific policies. It's a chilling reminder that even ideas, once intended to promote religious understanding, can be weaponized to incite hatred and violence. The Kristallnacht, a night of orchestrated violence against Jewish businesses and synagogues in 1938, stands as a stark testament to this danger. But let's not paint a completely bleak picture. Amidst the darkness, there were sparks of resistance, of compassion, and of intellectual curiosity. Scientists, often operating outside the established academic institutions, began to challenge traditional assumptions. Isaac Newton, the father of classical physics, wasn't just tinkering with prisms and apples. He was searching for the underlying laws of nature, a quest that laid the foundation for the scientific revolution. Then there were the missionaries. Across the globe, from Guatemala to Chile, Protestants ventured into uncharted territories, seeking to spread their faith. Some were genuinely motivated by a desire to help the poor and oppressed. Others, however, were driven by a more self-serving agenda, seeking to convert indigenous populations and establish control over new lands. The story of Protestant missions is complex, a mixture of altruism and exploitation, of genuine outreach and colonial ambition. The 20th century also saw the rise of sociology as a distinct field of study. Scholars like Émile Durkheim, a French sociologist, began to examine the role of religion in society, exploring concepts like anomie, a state of normlessness and social confusion, and the connection between religion and suicide. His work, though groundbreaking, was often criticized for being overly deterministic, for reducing complex human behavior to statistical patterns. Now, let's talk about money. The rise of capitalism, a system based on private ownership of the means of production and the pursuit of profit, had a profound impact on religion. Weber argued that the Protestant ethic, as mentioned earlier, had played a crucial role in this process, but it wasn't just Protestants. Catholicism, too, had its own distinct relationship with economic activity. The concept of the just price, the price that reflects the cost of production and is morally acceptable, was a key theological concern for Catholics. The development of insurance, a new form of risk management, was also deeply intertwined with religious ideas about providence and divine protection. Meanwhile, in Latin America, the Catholic Church faced a unique challenge: a vast gap between the opulent lifestyles of the clergy and the widespread poverty of the people. This led to the emergence of liberation theology, a movement that sought to reinterpret Catholic doctrine in light of social justice concerns. It argued that the Church had a moral obligation to speak out against oppression and to work for the liberation of the poor. The late 20th and early 21st centuries witnessed a growing emphasis on individualism, the belief that individuals are primarily responsible for their own success and happiness. Bella et al. This trend, they suggested, was eroding the foundations of community and commitment. But individualism wasn't just an American phenomenon. It was a global trend driven by factors such as industrialization, urbanization, and the rise of consumer culture. The rise of the lonely crowd, as sociologist David Reisman described it, reflected a growing sense of isolation and alienation in modern society. And what about science? The scientific revolution, which began in the 16th century, challenged traditional beliefs about the natural world. Scientists like Galileo Galilei and Nicolaus Copernicus used observation and experimentation to develop new theories that contradicted established dogma. This, unsurprisingly, led to conflict with the Church, which viewed science as a threat to its authority. However, the scientific revolution also paved the way for a new era of intellectual inquiry, one that emphasized reason and evidence. The rise of intelligent design theory in the late 20th and early 21st centuries represents a fascinating and controversial development. Proponents of intelligent design argue that certain features of the natural world are too complex to have arisen through random processes, and therefore must have been designed by an intelligent creator. This theory has been widely criticized by scientists who argue that it is a form of pseudoscience and that it undermines the scientific method. Throughout the 20th and 21st centuries, the relationship between religion and politics remained a constant source of tension. Governments often sought to control religious institutions, imposing restrictions on religious practice and suppressing dissent. Conversely, religious groups often challenged government authority, advocating for religious freedom and social justice. The rise of globalization has further complicated this relationship. As societies become more interconnected, religious boundaries become increasingly blurred. New religious movements emerge and existing religions adapt to changing social and cultural contexts. Finally, let's consider the role of language. The development of written languages, from ancient Sumerian to Latin to Greek, has been a crucial factor in the transmission of knowledge and the formation of cultures. The printing press, invented in the 15th century, revolutionized the dissemination of information, making books more accessible and contributing to the spread of literacy. But language is more than just a tool for communication. It is also a powerful symbol of identity and belonging. So, what have we learned? The 20th and 21st centuries have been a period of profound transformation, marked by both progress and setbacks. The myths surrounding religion, the myths of full pews, pious kings, and limited monarchies, are largely based on oversimplifications and misunderstandings. The truth is far more complex, a tangled web of faith, politics, economics, and social change. And perhaps the most important lesson of all is that the relationship between religion and society is constantly evolving, shaped by the interplay of countless factors. Is faith truly a matter of personal conviction, or is it inevitably shaped by social forces? Did the Enlightenment truly usher in an era of reason and tolerance, or did it simply replace one form of dogma with another? And can science and religion ever truly coexist, or are they destined to remain in a state of perpetual conflict? These are questions that continue to be debated today, and that will likely remain at the heart of our understanding of the human experience.